It seems these days that it's Alex Christianopoulos here. It seems these days that making complaints in my case is a sign that basically I'm mentally ill to my doctors in Bentley Hospital. They're suggesting that because I make complaints to the police and to say the internal affairs or go to the CCC, that basically I'm ill. Now the bottom line is that when I go to these places, they don't handle the complaints at all. They deliberately they don't look at their complaints. They don't take them on board like people in the community do. And when I explain it to anybody in the community or friends of mine or acquaintances, basically they understand what I'm saying and they support me. Now, when I go to the police or the Bentley Hospital, for instance, Bentley Hospital, they're not even prepared to listen to my complaints. They basically just go whatever, and that's it. And the police likewise. Now, at times when when people from the police, like J. Rose Smith, when I caught her being police informant, go to the doctors, etc., they raise my medication. When I go to see Dr. Ian Morris from Police Internal Affairs and point out valid claims of corruption to do with the police, etc., etc., basically they raised my medication, and Ian Morris felt it appropriate to call my doctors after we had the meeting, where I took a witness to that meeting, Dave Park, and the bottom line is that my behaviour was totally acceptable, not out of the ordinary, and it's got nothing to do with me being sick. Firstly, let me point out that my corruption claims have been listened to by other people, and they're advocating for me, etc., etc., because they believe me. Now, the bottom line is that why don't the people at the corruption agencies or the hospital believe me? I've had mental health staff believe me. I've got professors at universities believe me. I've got and advocating for me. I've got the West Side Party, Theresa Leishout backing me up, the leader of the party. I've got Dave Parks, my advocate, etc., etc., and I've also got advocates that are spies that are working for the police, that are basically playing double agent stuff. Now, why is that necessary? If I was wrong, why would they feel it necessary to do all this work? Obviously, because I'm 100% correct. Surely when you complain and you've got valid reasons to make the complaint, and you have been ripped off and you are being extorted, surely that those complaints should be listened to sympathetically, should be acted on, and nobody should be deeming me to be ill, etc. Especially my doctors, when they haven't even spent 1 second in listening to my circumstances, or my story, or my evidence. How can they deem that my complaints to be delusional and me to be ill at the time of making the complaints? It's absolutely ridiculous. Especially when police corruption and corrupt psychiatry goes along, happens all over the world, and also when my story, when you research political psychiatric abuse, basically the things that are going on with my doctors, etc., etc., are what's described as what is political psychiatric abuse, and whistleblowers are being identified as being victim to it. And I'm recognised to be a whistleblower by Vice President of Whistleblowers Australia, Brian Martin. After I sent him emails and got in contact with him, he referred me to members of Whistleblowers Australia, and I can show that in my email contacts. I've also got Professor Dion Giles, who's also writing emails for me and talking strategy with me. I haven't contacted for a little while, but has supported me. That's part of Brian Martin's Ascent Network. I've also associated profiles that they did for corrupt psychiatrists Brian Martin's done, and he suggests the ways and the mannerisms that corrupt psychiatrists will act as your doctor, and basically was able to identify heaps of the similarities between my case and what was profiled as the corrupt psychiatrist. I've also I've just done lots and lots of research, and basically all of it validates me being able to showcase that my story fits into all these parameters and all these models. And the bottom line is that you know, like, you wouldn't have that unless it was true. And you know, like, when your story fits all these moldings and of these certain characters or people or structures or crimes that are being committed, the bottom line is that makes your story validated. And the West Australian Police and the Bentley Hospital have got to realise this, but they aren't prepared to listen to any of it. And I'm not allowed to meet senior staff at the hospital. I'm only allowed to speak to Anne Allen, who handles complaints, but I'm not allowed to take my complaint further. No one in Bentley Hospital above at the top wants to speak to me, because they know that I've got my story well put together. And the bottom line is that nobody wants to talk to me, because at the end of the day I've got too much information. And the bottom line is that this corruption has to stop. And like, you can't get someone like me speaking as well as I do, and fighting the way I am fighting with this corruption stuff, to not get anywhere sooner or later. The bottom line is, my story makes way too much sense. It has way too many similarities between people that are being violated in psychiatric abuse and also government abuse, and etc., etc. It connects with lots of different connects with extortion, the way methods and how that goes about. It has people defaming my character and trying to silence me while I try to get my word out there. And I've got too many stories of psychiatrists that have been seeing me telling lies and making up stories, etc. And can't recall things that happened the day before, that simply, when I caught them out by bugging the phones, etc., and recording conversations, basically I made them run away and go and basically hide and go to shit. And the bottom line is that these people are meant to be professionals, and I'm meant to be a mental patient, and I seem to always be able to outwit them or outsmart them. And the bottom line is that you know, like, you can't catch, you know, I'm saying they're doing these things, I've caught them doing these things, and I can show you them doing these things. You know, that's a pretty big, you know, like, you think that I shouldn't be able to prove anything if their suggestions were 100% correct, and I shouldn't have them acting the way they have. I mean, basically, you know, when your advocates are acting as spies and trying to admit you into hospital while they're fighting for you to not be admitted into hospital, that's a big thing. And the bottom line is that you know, these things wouldn't be happening if everything I was suggesting wasn't true. It was true. Now, the bottom line is that sooner or later, common sense and people that are just and fighting for justice and true to real campaigns of justice and sick of the corruption, someone will step in eventually. And I think already, I've already found one champion with the West Oz Party, and basically they realise that the corruption is going on, and I have, my story is way too out there to ignore, and you know, Dean Giles, ex-professor of Murdoch University, wouldn't be assisting me. He was a member of the Dissent Network, which is under Brian Martin's crew. Brian Martin's Vice President of Whistleblowers Australia. You know, he wouldn't be assisting me with emails and talking to me and communicating with me to assist me. Brian Martin wouldn't have referred me to Whistleblowers Australia members to assist me. And you know, like, I've spoken to the guy that is involved with smugglers.com, who writes about police corruption, and basically our conversation, both of us, when we finished it, really understood each other and had a good grasp, and we knew that he knew that I was dealing with corruption just by simply the conversation that we had, and I knew that he knew his stuff and was also an expert on corruption because of how he handled the conversation and the things that he mentioned. And lots of things were confirmed to me with that conversation, etc. And you know, like, you know, even I think the way that I'm fighting my campaign, I think it's I really like what I'm doing. I really like the way these videos come across and the way people have commented me, and I basically can see that basically I'm telling the truth, because my story is just a quest for the truth. And the bottom line is that I know what happened in my life, and what part I played in it, and what I'm doing and who I am. And the bottom line is that these people that are trying to rip me off and rob me are the ones that are trying to say that I've got a mental illness, or these people that are involved in my boat accident that I captured, and I've got IT experts that agree with me that are involved with the threats on Red Hot Pie as on the profile of Rocky M35. At the end of the day, like I identify them with my own investigation, and then basically when I presented this stuff to Kensington Police and Canning Police Station, I was driven straight to police, driven straight to Bentley Hospital and locked up. Now the bottom line is that surely you can present evidence, and you can be wrong or right, but the bottom line is that it doesn't mean you have to get driven to a mental institution. And I've connected the police to Rocky M35 with some of the comments being made by Mark Shepherd, and that's all been 100% confirmed by my IT expert, who says that Mark Shepherd was the guy that I anonymously caught being Mark Shepherd by doing a very clever investigation into it. And there's nowhere that he could hide. Like the bottom line is I caught him, and basically that embarrassed the West Australian Police Force because they were involved, and basically they was led to my admittance into hospital about 6 weeks after Rocky M35, the profile says that I need to take Prozac and go see a counsellor. Now the bottom line is that, like, what more do I have to do to prove the corruption? I've got mental health nurses while I was locked up in the mental health ward basically going wow, and like they're blown away by what I've told them. And also allowing me to bring in the evidence because they believed me. And at the end of the day, it's very hard to get people to believe you when you're in a mental institution, but they did. I've got Gerald Burns, who I seen, the private psychologist, who basically viewed me and said after two or three meetings, he said to me and my friend Dave Parks that there's definitely nothing wrong with me, and he could see the corruption, but then he couldn't validate it by putting in writing for me, which he promised he would do, and I'm assuming that he got to, and that's why he couldn't do it or wasn't prepared to go against people in his own profession, etc., etc. I've got heaps of police corruption stories and things that validate my stories to be true. And the bottom line is some of my police corruption stories, basically, for them to be true and you to believe me, that is police corruption. Because like, if you believe what I'm saying, like, it's obvious police corruption, and that's why I was sent to a mental institution by the police. I've got rumours by the police saying that I am a huge drug dealer dealing to all biker gangs in Western Australia. I've got doctors saying that I made threats to shoot John Howard. Psychiatrists that say they can't recall in conjunction to being falsely admitted into hospital. I've got on two circumstances. One to do with breach of patient confidentiality. My doctor communicates with a police informant that I've been discussing with him in the 2-year meetings with him, consultants, and basically he suggested he doesn't know her, but then we proved that he's been in contact with her. So then he breached proper patient confidentiality to do with me pressing charges against her at Canning Police Station, and it just goes on and on and on. And like the bottom line is that you don't have stories like this unless they are true. And when I've got so many of them, and like basically, like, there are so many stories of the corruption that it's just very hard to disagree with me if you believe them. And the bottom line is that I don't suffer from mental illness. None of my friends have said I suffer from mental illness. People that I meet and like, and I tell my stories to believe me. And just as I hope that me on the video now that I'm believed, and I hope that these graphics don't make people think that I'm crazy, just simply because I'm trying to appeal to more people, and I'm trying to put something interesting on the video, just so it can show that, well, this is well produced, etc., etc. Hopefully display that I haven't got, like I don't suffer from a mental illness. Not that that would prove it, but it just presents as a very well presented case, and I hope that people support me and write comments on my videos and like it, etc. And basically they tell other people, so this thing can get bigger and bigger, and where it becomes a real problem and a real embarrassment to the West Australian government and the police force and Bentley Hospital, and puts pressure on them, and then basically this can bring pressure to Jamie Johnson, the builder that owns that has his name on the title, that's stealing the house off me with help from the West Australian Police and Bentley Hospital, and basically makes him let go, and I can return to a normal life, and my son, etc. We can have, I can spend my time on lots of other things, and like more time with my son, and really do the real important things in life, rather than continually fight this thing and produce videos and run around seeing people, etc. I need this part of my life to be over, and I need to move on. My dogs have been, my pets have been subject to being people trying to murder them. My son has been neglected, left in the house as a minor when I was dragged away to Bentley Hospital. He missed all his schooling when I was locked up in the mental ward when the police couldn't find him, and the hospital staff couldn't find him, and that really was my son's education. That's really when it ended for him. He basically left school, and it took 3 years for him to get on board. And basically now I'm happy to say that he's really got his shit together, and he's really proving to be everything I want out of my son, and really grown up a great deal. And the bottom line is that it's only due to my family's strength and the character between me and my son that we are where we are. Other people in this situation would become a mess, would have possibly committed suicide, and have great mental issues, and be really fighting, like fighting a losing battle. But I'm finding it very rewarding, and the well wishes and the support that I'm getting, as with the more public I get, and it goes, on my Facebook site, a December Medical Records site, it's just a whistleblower site, and getting support and likes, and basically people are outraged by the treatment that I'm getting by the West Australian government, and it's got to end. Thank you very much, and I really like to thank those people supporting me. Everything you say means a lot to me, and if you view my videos, I would really love you to make comments and pass it on. Thank you very much.